Hello everyone. I hope you are all doing well. This is Team UI Samurai and we are pleased to present our project IntelliPick, your go-to tool to automate and facilitate hiring workflow. So what's the big deal we are trying to sort? Let's try to understand this with an example. Okay, so let's say you are a tech recruiter of XYZ company. Your manager has assigned you a project of picking node developers for 3 different positions. You're excited about this and you reach your professional network through social media platforms. You post job openings and spread the word to as many people as possible. Okay, so now what happens is the very next day, you're flooded with these resumes of job seekers. You have to go through them one by one to find the best candidate that suits the position you are hiring for. Now, like there is so many content which you can find in the resume, and most of the resume they which get scanned through are based on the experience and the previous projects and any kinds of achievements if the candidate is having. And then they have the social links, like let's say the GitHub link and the Stack Overflow link, and maybe some personal website and whatever. So as a recruiter, because you're going to scan so many resume, there are only two possibilities. Either you just go through each of these profiles to know the candidate better, whatever their social status, basically social media status is, how they are performing in these open source dev communities or whatever, or otherwise you're going to totally ignore them, because of course you are going to scan so many resumes, so there's a good chance that you're going to ignore that. So in both the cases, it's kind of loss situation, because if you're going to scan everything, it is going to take you hours, and if you're going to scan like nothing, then you may miss out some important information. After hours of scanning and screening, you shortlist a few of the resume and hand it over to your hiring manager. But while interviewing, they realize the candidate is not appropriate enough for the position they are looking for. And this process brings you back to the start, where you need to find even more candidates that may or may not be the best pick. This also upsets your hiring manager, as it wastes hours of their and your time with no result in return. This cycle keeps running and leads to a lot of hours and resources wasted in screening and scanning profiles. And this is where IntelliPick comes to rescue. So as discussed in our previous example, in order to find the best candidate for certain positions, HR recruiters need to scroll through a bunch of resume and gather information of many candidates to confirm their qualifications. This is of course a tedious job to do, since it's not easy to verify and confirm that the candidates have the needed skill for certain positions. In order to do so, HR recruiters need to search through the internet based on whatever job profile they are looking for and accordingly get the data. So let's say if someone is hiring a developer, they will prefer to go to their GitHub links. This is what we are introducing. With the help of RPA and microservice, we designed IntelliPick to speed up their hiring work and eliminate manual repetitive overhead. The site helps HR recruiters gather information about potential candidates quickly with just one click and customization. And by the way, we are not into fetching any kind of private data. We are not using any browser cookies to get the data or to log into a specific profile. We are only interested in fetching the data which is publicly available, so that it does not violate any specific policies. IntelliPick allows HR recruiter to upload resume in bulk and gather all the relevant information. The decision parameters are fully customizable and configurable. So let's say I'm hiring for a developer and I'm interested in maybe their number of open source contributions. So I might be looking for number of packages or libraries they have published on GitHub, or like the projects they have done and all. We can actually customize that with the help of IntelliPick, because we understand that depending upon the different demands, requirements, things can be out of fetch, and that's why here we have tried to make it as much customizable as possible. And of course, we are going to add more and more features so that it serves the best need of the end user. The process cuts down huge chunk of work that HR representatives have to do, which is like gathering the data, analyzing profiles, going to each profile and clicking it, and allows HR recruiter to focus on making the decision, the end decisions and interviewing. So of course, if you are, if there's a standard website, let's say if I get 10 resume and in all those 10 resume, I'm expecting GitHub profile because I'm hiring for a developer position. Then instead of, going through each resume and opening the GitHub profiles and checking how they are like doing their whatever is like, apart from any visual representation, I'm definitely going to, I can actually put this task on IntelliPick to get the data and do the customizations I want to and generate a score which I could use to, actually rank those profiles. So that's the basic idea of IntelliPick. Coming to the benefits and technologies used, I hope the benefits are pretty much clear, and of course the end user as well. We are totally into HR and hiring industries and nothing else. So that is like our pinpoint focus. Coming to the products used, we have used UiPath Studio. Like we have used UiPath Studio for a lot of foreground and background processes like web automation, web UI automation, scraping, and all those things, and then data table manipulations, and then API calls and all those things. So web automation we are using for scraping the data from these public sites. Currently we are supporting 3 sites, which is Stack Overflow, and then GitHub and DevPost, and that too in a limited data amount capacity, which we are of course planning to increase to make it more usable and to make it basically add more utility to it. And then for the uipath-orchestrator, so basically because we are creating an on-demand product, so whenever a user interacts with their data, let's say 5-6 resumes in the front end, that data is pushed to the backend through the microservice, and the microservice just what it does, it just decodes all the technical scenes behind the hoods, and then gets the link which are supposed to be scraped, and then it passes that data to the UI path, which can then move ahead and start the scraping process. And other than that, we are using some other tools and technologies majorly for deployment purposes like Google Cloud, Heroku, Firebase, and then React is for the front end, Fast APIs for the microservice. Then we have a Dialogflow bot to let users know what exactly is happening and help them interact with the website better. Then we have Google Apps Script, which is like another microservice for the database interactions and all those things, and Google Sheets, which is like our temporary database. Our project is currently on the development stage. Of course, you can still go to the website, which is intellipick.web.app, Its references in the first slides, and you can just check out how it works and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much about benefits and technologies used. Coming to the solution architecture, as you can see, React.js is the front-end layer, which is like the entry point for the customers, which interacts with our microservice, which is Fast API, to get the data decoded and all that. And then finally, it brings UiPath to do the further processing, which is like the scraping part and data table organization and everything. So that's about the solution layer. So talking about the solution architecture flow diagram individually, how the flows are working. So as you can see in the front-end flow, once the user interacts with the front-end application, they are free to use Alex chatbot for clearing the queries. But if they want to use the application, they are supposed to authenticate themselves using Google OAuth. And once the authentication is successful, they are landing to a profile page where they can interact with our actual, product. So basically, they have the weight customization options, they have the keyword customizations. Basically, these are all the configuration settings. And anyway, we are going to see a demo of how these work. But the idea is to, provide them with the customization parameters. And once all the customization is done, they are supposed to upload resume. And after uploading the resume, they can just, send the data to the backend from which the backend takes care. Now, what backend does is it decodes all the data. Like if you see this particular backend microservice, so basically we are uploading PDF, so which goes into some bytes and does all the decoding and getting. At the end result is URL and the type of URL. Let's say if it is a dev post, if it is a GitHub and all that. So it prepares that data, it processes it, and then it sends that data back to once that process is done, then it sends the data back to the orchestrator API, from where orchestrator API takes the data in form of JSON arguments, and then it runs the unattended bot with those arguments. They are decoded to their respective values, and then the process starts. Now orchestrator API, it just if you see the process flow of the orchestrator API, it deserializes the data and then accordingly structures it, then initiates the scraping process and builds the data table to store these values. At the end, once the scraping process is done, by the way, all these processes run in parallel. So once that is done, it does some join operations to create a unified table, which is like the end table, and uses a resume ID, which is a primary key, which is developed which is generated in real time by the backend microservice, and then uses that to join all those tables. And once the joining is done, it computes the score and stores that data to the AppScript API, which then dumps it to a Google Sheet, which is our temporary database. So this is all about the solution architecture flow. Okay, so let's quickly go through the demo. So this is our simple looking web interface. Here you can access the chatbot and ask questions like how site works, and yeah, like you can ask a couple of things and it will accordingly instruct you. So as you can see, this is just like after you sign in, you can just upload the resume and candidate information and everything. And yeah, so let me log in. So it's basically for confirming your identity. And once you log in, you get to see this page. So here we have 3 links available at the moment. Others are disabled. Some of them are not supported and some of them don't allow public scraping. So we have disabled them purposely and we will take them out of the list. So if you go and if you want to edit, let's say I want to say C# and C++, I can add those preferred skills, and let's say interest, AR, VR, and maybe what else, blockchain. So we can just add it like this, and once we are done with that, we can set up the weight. So now this is the part where, let's say I want profiles with project weightage as 100%, but I don't care about following weightage, so I can just remove it to lesser number or completely turn them to 0, whatever, it depends. So yeah, and then let's keep all the other parameters as it is. Similarly, we can do the same thing for GitHub, and because we don't have any skills or interest keyword scraping here, so we just have this just the weightage thing, okay? And same for the Stack Overflow. So now let's say I don't want to include Stack Overflow at all in my list. So there's one more way. I can just click on this text and it disables that link. So now the weights for this entire thing will automatically be set to 0. Now let's choose some bunch of resumes. So I have around, I guess, 8 or 9 resumes. So I'll just select them all. I'll click on open and I'll click upload. Now this process is going to be pretty long, and as you can see, the scraping has started. So now all these processes will start parallelly. All these links will open here. So as you can see, this is like all the links are there. So basically the scraping happens in my local system. Like the machine allocated for this, which is triggered by orchestrator API, is no other than my local system. So once this will keep on running. And as you can see, once this is done, like these tabs will automatically start closing up once the scraping is done. So let's wait. So as you can see, there are some tabs which are already getting closed. Some tabs take more time generally because either the data is missing or there are some kind of errors in there. So we are almost done here. Just one more link. So the browser process is done now. Now it will be doing some data table manipulations and dumping data and then sending it to the backend service, which is also done now. So now anytime we will be getting our table results, basically the scraped data. So yeah, as you can see, this is all the scraped data we have. So now let's say this is the profile score that is generated based on weight. So let's just sort it out on decreasing order. And as you can see, these are the scores which are generated. Now let's say I want to, there are like more than these columns. So you can just go to show columns and check for the columns which are not present. So currently it's all showing dev post columns. Let's say I want to see some more GitHub columns. I can just do that. Or there's one more thing. So basically you want skills and interest, and then you want to filter them up. So you can just go to filter and contains. And let's say I want the skills where AR and VR is present. Let's just clear this filter out and just try to do and see if there are people who have AR, VR as skills. Okay, so we don't have any AR, VR skilled people. So maybe we can just go for Java maybe. Yeah, so we found pretty much a lot of candidates with Java, and then we'll sort it up. So you can see like these are the people. So I am very likely to just select this person because he has the desired skills and the profile scores at the top, and then we will be prioritizing accordingly. And you can see some missing values. That is because their profiles don't have those values. So you can just export this data and download it as CSV. So you can see this is the data, and then you can accordingly analyze. So yeah, that's all about this product. I hope you liked it, and you can just sign out, and that's it. So that's all about IntelliPick.